All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz, back in the house again with all of your shenanigans from Raw and SmackDown. Good to see you, my friend. How was your week?
Likewise, doing great. A little burnt, but I'm all right. How about yourself?
I was not not burnt to a crisp like you were. Big D was on vacation, having a little bit too much fun in the sun in
The
Phoenix.
sun don't
But
like me. It's all good. Whatever.
sun doesn't like any of us. That's why I wear sunscreen all the time.
Whatever.
But glad to have you back. Hopefully recovers quickly. Speaking of recovering quickly, hopefully Paul Heyman recovers quickly too. But we
Yeah, I
will
think
talk
he's
about
dead.
that. Maybe he might have died.
Everyone's
Based off
dying.
of what happened, that 58-year-old man getting put through a table. But we'll get to that later. We're going to recap all the shenanigans from Raw and SmackDown, kicking off with Monday Night Raw. Big D. What
Yeah,
happened
so
on Raw
Monday
this
Night
week?
Raw, we had Drew McIntyre come out and pretty much explain, not, I guess, sort of explaining, but not really explaining why he did what he did. But did notice that he did take a bracelet from CM Punk at the end of SmackDown last week, and again he unveiled it was a very special bracelet for CM Punk as it donned the name of his wife AJ Lee and their dog Larry. I'm sure it doesn't say AJ. I'm sure it says her real name, but she's AJ Lee to me, and that's how it's gonna stay. So it's gonna be It's gonna be a blood feud. Really, he's talking about how he took him out. You know, all that fun stuff. Drew always does a great promo. Honestly, nothing we haven't heard before from him. Just more passion, adding more seriousness to it in terms of taking the bracelet from him and saying that he's gonna go for the men's Money in the Bank qualifier because now he has his wife and his dog rooting for him, which was silly at first, but it's really just like a low blow because CM Punk ain't got no kids; it's just the dog. And all you fur parents out there, whatever they're called nowadays. Your pets sometimes are like children to you, so that kind of maybe hit CM Punk in the feels as he was recovering somewhere in Chicago. But yeah, not a whole lot, just really building onto that feud. I think it's really going to boil over at SummerSlam because, like we said last week, he's going to be medically clear by that time. This was just a way to get him off TV for a while. So nothing crazy, but it was still a good Drew McIntyre promo.
It was. I mean, it helps. It helps continue to prolong this feud. Like I said, they're kind of just they're keeping it alive while CM Punk recovers. It'll be interesting to see if he does end up in the Money in the Bank. I think Adam Pearce later was like, "You're not going to be in the Money in the Bank match," and he was like,
You quit last
if
week."
I don't, yeah." He's like, "Wait a second, I thought you weren't even working here anymore." But he was doing like the whole, if you don't do this, then I'm going to get really disruptive. And then I think there's still just one spot left.
One
After
spot
this week
left.
on
I think that's the one he's trying to get.
which is the one he's going to try to get. So we'll see how this plays out this week, and if he does become a participant in Money in the Bank. So that was the cliffhanger they left off with. But good stuff. It was a good way to open the show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it'll be it'll be kind of weird, or not weird, but it would be interesting to let him actually go in and win the Money in the Bank contract, because then he'd be able to use it to cash in, and it'll kind of be.
Yeah.
I've said it before. It'll play into his whole hypocritical role right now, and how he just kind of contradicts himself a lot, and how hypocritical would it be that he uses the Money in the Bank briefcase to regain that title? But time will tell. After that,
ironic. I don't know.
Or ironic, yes. After that, we cut to the back where Dom's enjoying some chicken nuggets, and Judgment Day's playing some WWE 2K24. You got a plug, right? And he's there, and of course Damian Priest shows up impressed, and he's like, "Oh, Carlito, you did this?" And Carlito's like, "Nah, man, I didn't do it. It was actually Liv Morgan who did it." And as they're talking about her, she sends a text. We didn't see any text context or anything like that, but I bring that up only because I love Carlito's reaction in this one, because he showed him, and then of course Damian Priest with the wepa, and then Carlito just looks and he's like, "That's cool." Like he just did, he's just the way he did look like a teenage kid, man. It was freaking great.
Yeah.
It made me laugh. I thought it was funny as hell. Obviously insinuating that Liv Morgan sent him some kind of dirty text or whatever, or an image or whatever, right? But again, Damian Priest reminding Dom, like, "Hey man, you're gonna have to explain this to Rhea when she gets back. How she got your number and what's gonna happen, all this stuff." And Dom, of course, "Hey, I don't know what the heck, I'm trying my best or whatever. I'll figure it out." And he's "You need to go end that with her." He left, and then everyone else was still kind of just playing the games and Damian Priest is like, why haven't you taken care of Braun Strowman? For some reason, they still want to take care of Braun Strowman when clearly they can't.
Maybe let that one go. Yeah, I was like, at this
you
point,
gotta
now,
take your losses,
he's still
buddy.
doing the. He's still doing the whole like Benny Hill chase moment
Yeah.
every single week. It's like, which is it's become silly now. Of here
Yeah.
goes Braun Strowman,
For no reason.
visibly hobbled,
Yeah.
for no reason, visibly
Just
like hobbling his
dart
way
after
out and awkwardly running after them and then chasing out of the arena every single week. So that's getting a little old, but anyway.
It is, but it's I don't know why they're still with that. Who knows? Maybe because at the time they didn't really have anything to do with them, as far as storyline wise. But that changes later on, so we'll get into that here in a bit. After that, we went into one hell of a match between Ludwig Kaiser and Braun Breaker. Ludwig Kaiser, I will put it out there right now. He's that heel you love to hate. He is arrogant, pompous. He's a jerk, and in all the right ways, right? Like you want to see him get beat up, but it's so hard because he's a talented wrestler and he's so good. And that him and Braun Breaker going at each other was actually a really great match. I was enjoying it. This was actually probably one of the better matches of the night, I felt, for me at the time.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, like a white bolt of lightning, Sheamus comes flying into the screen when they're outside and just knees Ludwig Kaiser right in the face. That came out of nowhere and looked absolutely brutal. Of course, caused the DQ. Ludwig Kaiser wins, and Braun Breaker just gets pissed off and spears everybody and leaves mad, and just goes backstage. Yeah. After that, he goes backstage to, bang on the door of Adam Pearce and demand that he do something about it. At which point, Sami Zayn's back there like a tough guy and he's like, Adam, make that official. And so now we have an intercontinental title match between Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn, which I don't think Sami's gonna win. I worry that Braun Breaker is gonna kill him, or there's gonna be interference from Ludwig Kaiser or Sheamus because it's gonna turn into a fatal 4-way at SummerSlam somehow, some way, unfortunately. But overall, the match was good. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, the match was good. It's fun. One of those things, though, I kind of felt it was a little odd to have. You have Braun Breaker, who they kind of build him as this. He's this once-in-a-generation athlete. He runs the ropes at 23 miles an hour. He was like just squashing people in seconds. And then all of a sudden he's having like a competitive match with Kaiser, who's like half his size. So there was part for me was kind of like, oh, you really build him as like a super monster heel. And he's struggling against Kaiser, who Kaiser's great. But he's not exactly a world beater. So I was like, that's a little funny. The match was really good. I just kind of that felt a little inconsistent with how they've been billing Braun Breaker, where he was struggling throughout the match and
he was squashing jobbers bigger than Ludwig Kaiser.
Yeah, way bigger than Ludwig Kaiser. And I think this was a little bit copy paste from the previous week where it was like the match with Braun Breaker and Sheamus ended with interference from Kaiser. This one interfered with interference from Sheamus, and so a little copy paste here, but I thought it was good. Just more interference finishes and more, and this was kind of the theme last week was tons of dust ups and interference, and we saw that continuation this week on both Raw and SmackDown again.
Yeah,
that too many matches that had interference in them that affected the outcome of it, and that they're going to the well on that a little too much.
I agree with that. I think as far as the finishes go, I don't know why that's happening. There's been a lot of roll ups. There's been a lot of just shenanigans. Not even like getting in the ring and interfering. More like just distractions. Just
distraction.
So, There is one match that didn't have distractions, and that was the women's qualifier for the Money in the Bank ladder match between Lyra Valkyria, sorry, I'll get that right one day, Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane. That was a fun match. A lot of near falls back and forth. A lot of near submissions, of course, with Shayna. She's going to throw in the Kirifuda clutch whenever she can. And she does. She locks it in from out of nowhere almost every time. That one had no interference, but again, nothing to write home about too much about this match. There's just a lot of back and forth. Lyra Valkyria wins. She hit the, what are they calling it? Let me see. The Nightwing. On Kairi Sane to win. Yeah, she hit the Nightwing on Kairi Sane to win the match. So she's moving on to the Money in the Bank women's ladder match. So I don't know how you felt about this match.
Yeah, this is somewhat predictable. I mean, I figured looking at the card, I was like, Lyra's probably going to advance here. She's been getting a huge push since her call up. Match was fine. I think we got a "This is awesome" chant again, which again that's getting way overused.
Yeah, losing
the
its
match
meaning.
wasn't awesome at the time that the champ. Yeah, at the time that the chant started, it was certainly not awesome. It was fine. Finish was good. That end sequence where Lyra was in the Karakuda clutch. And then she rolled out of it, and then Kairi Sane hit the insane elbow, and then Lyra immediately hit the Nightwing on her. That was really, really well done.
Yeah,
and it looked
it
good.
was.
But yeah, about what I expected. When I saw it, I figured Lyra would move
solid
on
match.
Money in the Bank.
Yeah, it was a solid match, but it was good. Yeah, so I like that. After that, we had Liv Morgan came out first. There's a lot of people involved in this next segment, so bear with me, folks. Liv Morgan comes out to call out Dom. Notice the new shirt she has that says Daddy's Girl, which is just a funny touch. I don't know if I said this, but obviously she calls him Daddy Dom, is what she calls him. And on Father's Day, she tweeted out, "Happy Father's Day, Dominic Mysterio," which I thought was hilarious. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Again, I love storylines. I love storytelling. That's great. She's wearing the Daddy's Girl shirt, obviously tell him to come out because she knows he likes the gifts she got him and all that stuff. It actually brings out Zelina Vega, who is telling her that she doesn't even care about the title. Like, all she's doing is wanting to get some from Dom and this and that, and they having a typical back and forth spat, which of course I cleverly done. Liv Morgan tells her, "Oh no, I care about this, but not you," and that was kind of like you're not worth my time. Like, I'm busy. Get out of the way. Which is good because the way she says, she's like, I took out Rhea Ripley for this title. I early retired Becky Lynch for this title. Like, valid points, valid points saying that she is a formidable champ, telling Zelina Vega, like, get back in your lane and get out of mine. And so somehow I tried to go back and see it. I couldn't find the point that made it happen, but the crowd got chanting sloppy seconds, which was hilarious. And it made Zelina Vega break character. Like, she legit started laughing and had to turn away from the camera because she broke, and it was hilarious. And Liv just like, I don't care. Like, I was like, damn, she just like ran with it, And so that was funny to see. And then, of course, eventually that brought out Dominic Mysterio to kind of be like, let's put an end to this. And she was like, come on in. And she held the ropes for him and all that stuff and being real flirtatious. Obviously, he's looking uncomfortable. It actually, at the end of the day, it brought out also Rey Mysterio somehow ended up out there for Zelina Vega. At which point, I think he kind of got in between Zelina Vega and Liv Morgan. At which point, Dom hesitantly, to his credit, didn't wanted to jump in, but kind of was torn. And then when he saw Rey Mysterio by himself, just shoved him across the ring, which Liv took as a token of love or whatever she's seen it as.
Hero.
Like he's being heroic in some way. And she was just like in awe of him for it. Like, she had the whole little starstruck eyes and all that stuff. And, we all know Dom only did it because he doesn't like his dad. Obviously, that's the story. And so that was that segment. And then I'm just going to real quick, Michael, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in to the next part of it because it all ties in. After that, she was talking to, actually he came out, and then she said that she was going to do the favor for them. She ran into R-Truth. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I ran a blank.
Backstage,
which was amazing because R-Truth was like, was that Tom and Nick Mysterio? Because she was like telling him, and Dominic just like walked away from her, and he was like, was that Tom and Nick? And she was like, yeah, it was. And he's like, is he playing hard to get? And she's like, yeah, he is. And he's like, oh, that Tom and Nick. Like, it's just, they're continuing it. And she's like, you know what? She's like, what if I got him a match with his deadbeat dad next week? And he's like, oh, I think he'll like that. And she's like, what if I get his friends a tag team title match against the best tag team in the world, you? And R-Truth is like, yeah, sure, anything for love, all delusional and hilarious, as always. And I love the line where he said, I've always gotten along with Finn Balor. I don't like that JD guy. He got a freakishly large head. She was just agreeing with him. And the best part was when they cut back, Michael Cole's laughing hysterically. And Miz was doing commentary with him because, as you know, the Wyatt Six apparently
Yeah,
abducted
McAfee. Yeah.
Pat McAfee, so we didn't get to hear a
Pat
big
McAfee.
SOB throughout the whole match a million times,
Oh,
throughout the
I
night. I
know.
mean,
For shame.
but I know you missed it, Mike. I know you missed it, but
Yeah,
he,
that was my favorite part of the show was the fact that Pat McAfee was not on it, and I like the Miz on commentary. So, and
yeah,
you know what,
and the
Michael
Miz
Cole
did
did
great
well. He Michael Cole did about like half the show by
by
himself,
himself because at
and
that
he
point,
did really well. And
yeah,
I was
at
like,
that point, Miz is like, I need to go get this sorted out, and he like took off and he was all mad. So,
yeah, he
what do you
took
think of the
off,
whole
and that was
segment?
like at the halfway point. Yeah,
Yeah,
and the whole segment was fine. It went on a little too long for me.
yeah,
Like the whole back and forth with Zelina Vega was a little weak, and it went. It was good for the storytelling. Like I get why they did it because they're trying to put all the pieces in place for, Liv's continued infiltration into the Judgment Day, and obviously she's going
yeah,
to come in and take everything over,
yep,
and her trying to get in well with everybody else, and then they had the setup for the tag team, which as soon as they announced it, I was like, oh, the
we
Awesome
know
Truth's
what's
going
gonna
to
happen.
lose. Like
Yeah,
you knew it was going to happen at that
yeah.
point, which made sense. You knew Awesome Truth was not going to have a long title reign.
I mean,
They
let's
got
be
a
honest.
couple of
You
defenses
forgot they
in
were the
there.
tag team champions for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is what it is, and so this was going to be that setup to kind of get in the good graces, and they'll get the tag titles. So it was all important for the storytelling aspect. It all needed to happen. So I was like, it's good. It just that it went on a little long.
It did. It was a long segment, and I was like, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I guess they made do with what they had, I guess, but it was funny at
Yeah.
points, made me laugh every now and again, so I'm okay with the segment. But the next match we had after that was another Money in the Bank qualifier. Was for the men's. It was Chad Gable, Braun Strowman, and Bronson Reed. And of course, throughout the night, they were wondering how Chad Gable was doing after what happened to him. How is he doing? There's heightened extra security. You had extra security guards at the commentary table. You had security guards at Chad Gable had his own locker room with security and whatnot, and which is hilarious because you had
Which is weird because lots of other people were attacked. So
right, like
why was
Braun
Chad
Strowman
Gable
was considered
getting like
one of them.
VIP treatment?
Yeah, and it was funny
Carmelo
because
Hayes, I think, was one of them.
yeah, and he was
Like
talking about shirts.
nobody.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is what made was a little strange. I was like, why? Just because like Chad Gable got bonked on the head and had blood on his head, like why is he the one that they're putting so much emphasis on how he's doing versus
Yeah.
everybody else who was like destroyed? There were a couple of crew members that were clearly dead. Like they should have shown an in memoriam for because they had blood splatters on the wall.
Yeah.
So like I don't understand why everyone was like, yeah, Chad Gable. Oh yeah, he's fine. He's been cleared.
he's been medically cleared.
Like,
Yes.
he looked like he had a concussion. I know everyone's like looking forward to him wrestling again, and I was like, that just felt a little like you needed to steer somebody, and he's done with Sami Zayn, and Sami
Yeah.
Zayn's done with him, so they're like,
Yeah.
put him in the Wyatt 6-1, like make him the
Yeah.
focal point.
It was interesting, but he came out and he had a match with all three. And on this one, again, you had interference. You had Judgment Day come out to beat up on Braun Strowman. Not very successful. They pretty much just ended up getting him to chase them. And
Yeah.
Chad Gable took that opportunity, hit a beautiful moonsault on Bronson Reed. That was actually really, really nice. Kind of reminded me of a Kurt Angle one that Kurt Angle used to do. I thought it was really, really cool to see him do that. And again, he won the match. While he was celebrating, the lights hit again. The crowd goes ballistic because they're like, hell yeah, here they come to finish. They're going to finish him off. Yay, murder. But they didn't. Instead, you had Abby the Witch, or Sister Abigail, or of course you had her come out and crawl into the ring all creepy. Nikki Cross does an awesome job and how she portrays this character. I think she's perfect for the role, and you could see it there. She comes in, crawls into the ring. Of course, Chad Gable's scared beyond his mind and just trying to find a way out. Manages to get out, but she wasn't there for him. She actually went over again through the bottom of the ropes to outside in front of commentary and gives Michael Cole a box and then just leaves it there and just walks out through the back area. Real eerily, real creepy like. Crowd still going crazy. Loving every bit of it. I love that they're not doing too much too soon right now. It's good because this, came to Michael Cole. I think they went to commercial, if I'm not mistaken. After that, then when he got back, he was like, "The box is addressed to Pat McAfee," and he opened the box. I'm like, "Sir, that is a federal crime. You're opening somebody else's."
I know,
mail."
I'm like,
But
you opened somebody else's mail.
who am I to judge? I mean, there was murder on the show last week, so who cares? All bets are off at this point.
Yeah, they play
So
fast and loose with the rules here on WWE, so it's
it's
like,
all
yeah,
good.
mail fraud,
So
it's fine.
he opened up the package and it was a VHS, and I thought it was hilarious because he was like, "To you young viewers out there," I'm like, "Yeah, all you youngins out there don't know what a VHS cassette is.
You know, maybe
You've
he
never
just
been to
saved this.
Blockbuster,
I'm
and
like,
it shows."
well, I'm like, why is the Wyatt Six using VHS tapes? That would be my bigger question. It's like the supernatural beings just
Yeah.
use outdated technology. That's
You
fine.
gotta use what you got, man. But yeah, it just said like
Gotta
play
use what you
me.
got.
So he's like, let's get it back to the truck. Maybe we might have a VHS player out there. I'm like, call it a VCR, Michael Cole. Come on, it's a VCR. Don't
It's
call
a
it some
VCR,
some
which they
special
do.
contraption. It's some special contraption. It's a VCR.
Production trucks have a tape deck. They can play them.
They
So
can
that's
play
why I
it. It's
was
fine.
like, when he's like, maybe we found an old VCR and plugged it in. I'm like, you didn't find an old VCR. The production truck has it. You're fine.
Yeah, it's all good. So they we'll get to that one here in a bit because it took them a while to figure out whether they knew how to use this ancient technology. So after that, we had the women's tag team match of Alba Fire, Isla Dawn making their first appearance as first match as champions, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, first match as champions, but it was a non-title match.
It was a non-title match, yeah.
Which
That's
I
what
thought
threw
was
me off.
strange.
Yeah.
It was like
It wasn't
non-title
just-
match.
yeah.
For the chance, if you beat us, you might get a chance down the line for a title defense. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, but
Against
sure.
the party crew that is Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. Needless to say, Katana Chance, Kaden Carter did not win this match. It was actually a relatively quick match. It wasn't anything elaborate or long or anything like that. Rather, it was over before you realized it. But then after that, you had Damage Control just come in and destroy Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, I guess, in retaliation for losing their title, hitting like a gory bomb leg sweep kind of thing on them, and just hit all the moves. All three of them beat up on both of them, and I thought that was interesting to see because clearly they're not done. They want their rematch. Whether or not they'll get it at SummerSlam, we'll find out later. But as of right now, it looks like they just have their eyes on the women's tag team match. But the match itself wasn't anything to write home about. It was a decent match. It was okay. It's pretty much just to set up the Damage Control jumping. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, same here. No, there was nothing to it. It was just, it felt like filler. It felt a little unnecessary, but you're right. It was just set up to, hey, let's try to start off their first feud. So we're going to use this as a launching point into the confrontation with Damage Control. So it's fine.
Yeah. After that, we go backstage again, and Damian Priest is walking to their locker room, and out comes Liv Morgan with a smile on her face, and he's like, "I hope Dom you." He thought it was Dom in the room, and he was like, "I hope you ended things." And he walks in, it's Finn Balor, casually holding a PS5 controller, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "What?" And he was like, "That looks again insinuating," and Finn Balor just again getting bothered and disturbed that, "Oh my God, you're saying I'm doing something shady or whatever." And of course, it's the paranoia of Damian Priest, or is it? We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But he comes in to tell Damian Priest, "Hey, you know what? Say what you want about Liv. She just got us. She got Dom a match with Ray next week, and she got me and JD a tag team title match tonight for the main event. So, I mean, he's like, I'll take what I can get." And Damian, pretty much, I felt like that was like a silent jab at Damian Priest, because he kind of felt like, this is the stuff you should be doing for us as our leader. You should be setting stuff up for us. And I guess Damian Priest is more along the lines of like, I'm the champ, I'm handling my own right now. So I don't know how that's going to work out. That's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But at the same time, it's odd because he was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I came to get my title because I'm going to go address Seth." Then he does do that. He goes out there, addresses Seth Rollins. And the reason I tie these two together right now is because during that, he didn't run down Seth or anything like that. Seth does come out looking like Cruella DeVille, and he just kind of does his own little, they kind of go back and forth in terms of like respect for one another and all this stuff. And of course, they're going to have their title match. Match is already set. So Seth Rollins says, "I don't want to be one-upped because you one-upped me by when I came back here to tell me that you had you offered me a title shot, Six, and I'm going to make you a gentleman's wager." He's like, "If you beat me, then I will never attempt to." He's like, "I'll never attempt to go after the world title again. You just, I'll stop and I won't do it. But if I win, you're out of, you leave, sorry about that, you leave Judgment Day. And so Damian Priest kind of thought about it, and he kind of said the line of like, well, Judgment Day needs me more than I need them, so you're on. Again, another jab at the Judgment Day. So that was interesting to see how all that panned out. So I don't know how you felt about the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, this whole thing just assures me that Seth's taking the title off of Damian Priest. Like that'll happen at Money in the Bank, and that Judgment Day is going to betray him as part of that. Like that. Yeah. That's all this really told me, is that as part of that, to kind of help him save face, it's going to be interference from the Judgment Day to where he's not going to lose clean, but it'll be that betrayal of, well, hey, now you're not the champ anymore, so I guess we don't need you anymore. They kind of set this up with Finn Balor too in that segment before, where he's like, hey, all right, well, go get it, and then good luck on your title shot. And then when Finn's smiling, and then when he turns around to leave, like Finn's expression changes to where he
it does. Like he kind of rolled his eyes.
He kind of was like. And he kind of rolled his eyes, yeah. And so it was like, okay, clearly. And Finn was the one that took the hotel key. They showed that from the previous week. He was the one who took the hotel keys. He's been in cahoots with Liv Morgan. So clearly he's up to something with Liv. I think that'll culminate with the betrayal of Damian Priest, and Liv's going to kind of move in and take over at that point. So it was pretty telegraphed. The segment was good. We got a little Gunther cameo.
That was great to see.
Segment too.
But it was weird. Cool. That's why I forgot about it, because he showed up just to tell them good luck, pretty much. Like
he's like good luck because he already has his title match.
Yeah, at SummerSlam. Just reminding them that he's here. And he's like, I'm here.
Yeah, he's like, by the way, y'all. Well, and it was funny because I liked that little statement where he's like, may the better man win at Money in the Bank, and the better man will be the lesser man at SummerSlam against me. And I was like, there's the mic drop from Gunther, and then he gets out of there. So I liked it. It just reminded everybody, hey, he does have this title shot coming up. Yeah. So don't sleep on him. Don't forget about him. That's why he's been hanging back. And then, he's going to take over and run with that feud with whoever, probably Seth Rollins. So I liked it. I think it was a good segment. But a lot of storytelling.
I thought so too. A lot of storytelling. A lot. And I'm liking that. I'm really liking that. I'm enjoying that. So I think that's great. After that, we had an interesting. It cut into Michael Cole saying, "Okay, we found a player for this VCR tape." Yeah, a VCR, but just pop it in and you're good to go. Hit the triangle button, you're fine. So they hit play on it. And I like the way they made it look like an old VHS, like the flickering of the lines and all that stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, the blue background and all that.
Yeah, it was cool. And it cuts to Uncle Howdy, and I'm not gonna recite it verbatim, but I will go on record on saying that I know you had messaged me, you had texted me when you saw it, and I agree with you. This was hands down best segment of the year. So well done. Bo Dallas pretty much, or I'm sorry, he's still going by Bo Dallas. I just saw here.
He's going by Bo Dallas now. Yeah.
He's being interviewed by Uncle Howdy, and it was kind of like a man in the mirror kind of segment where he's, how do you feel after your brother? How did it feel when your brother died? Like, and it pretty much like the elephant in the room, right? Like what everyone's wanting to know. And of course he explains how he's, I think the question that got him riled up was the, do you feel you're using your brother's legacy or abusing it for yourself? And he says, no, we get to finish what we started. And, we never got to show everyone. And it just, it hit so well. And I think it did so good. It wasn't a long segment. It wasn't long, but it was so well done. And he showed that. And I always knew Bo was great because who can make Bo leave? Put Bo leave over anyone but a Wyatt, obviously. Or Rotunda, I should say. But I mean, he just did it so well, and this was the first glimpse we got of Bo, as himself, and as Uncle Howdy. I like the voice distorter for Uncle Howdy because it's supposed to be just like the Fiend was in Bray's mind. Uncle Howdy's in Bo's mind, and that's who's pretty much pulling the strings at this point. and it makes it very. He's saying they forgot about us. They abandoned us. Like, you know, like it's all these, again, everything that they have been saying leading up to their debut, and I can't wait to see where this goes. I wonder why they chose Pat McAfee. There's so many questions, and it leaves so much room. Again, I've said it before. We just need to let it breathe. This was a nice touch. It was a short promo, nothing crazy. Nobody was targeted as of right now, and it was so well done. I loved all of this. This took. I didn't have a match of the night. This was my moment of the night because of how well it was put together and how nicely done it was. So I'll let you speak on that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I had messaged you as soon as I saw it, and I was like, hey, you know, and for me, it really was like it was the promo of the year at this point. I don't see anything else surpassing it. It was just so excellent. It was real and it was raw because it was based all on a lot of the same things that he's talked about in the documentary with Bray Wyatt. So it's like this is coming from a real genuine place. And so all the emotions that he's sharing. And I thought it was really bold to address Bray's death directly. It's like they just steered right into it.
It was just like rip the Band-Aid off. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like let's just address this head on, which I thought was great. And how this could be viewed as exploiting his legacy because people have said that. And it's a fair question. So I love that they had just addressed it immediately. And, you know, Taylor's performance was amazing. Like he showed great emotional range here. Feeding off that real life pain, feeding off of the loss. He seemed to be channeling his brother at times, like with the speech pattern and the tone and the mannerisms, which is a little bit eerie, but it was just so well done. And you mentioned it. We've only really seen kind of the Bo Dallas character as somewhat satirical and tongue-in-cheek, kind of a comedy performer. So he had the B team and then Bo leave. So for me, this was like a career-defining, star-making moment for him, where he really stepped out. I didn't even know that he was capable of it. That was always my concern with this was I'm like, I want to love this. I want to love the Wyatt Six. I don't know if, you know, Bo could carry it. All of those feelings were dissipated when I saw this. I was like, man, I didn't know he was capable of this. It was really well done. So bravo, hands down, best thing on the show. And then the nice little reveal at the very end that they're sitting in the Firefly Funhouse.
Yes.
And when you kind of see the lights come up a little bit and you can see the door with the sign on it. So just the imagery was so good. It was brief. It was just enough. And you talked about, like, I hope they do the slow build on this. Yeah. I'm glad that they are. It's like they didn't just immediately. They had this segment with Abby the Witch handing the tape off, and then you do the video, and that was it, which is perfect. I hope they do other video. Are you going to give us a VHS tape about each of the characters each week?
I will buy the set.
Check it out.
WWE.
I will buy the box set.
Like, I will buy the set.
I hope they do. It's like just build it. Like, give us a little glimpse into each of these characters. Do it in that same way. Stretch out the storytelling on it. But this was really great. I loved it. I watched it over and over and over again. And I'm liking the refresh on the Uncle Howdy look, because I was never wild about the first Uncle Howdy mask. This one where it's kind of it's almost like the Phantom of the Opera, where you just have the top part. You can see the whole bottom of his face. He's got the long dreads and the top hat. I'm digging the look. I think it looks a lot better on the refresh. So moment of the night. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. After that, we had Karrion Kross against Kofi Kingston. Again, distraction. Karrion Kross was not in control. I think Kofi was actually in control at the time. And then it cut to backstage. You had Paul Ellering saying, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And you look back and it's AOP just destroying Xavier Woods backstage. And so Karrion Kross was able to hit the final prayer. I think this is going to be a blow-off match for WrestleMania, is what they're probably building towards. This was just more storytelling, it's Kofi Kingston losing to Karrion Kross. So we'll see what he does on that next week. I'm sure he's going to gloat about it or tell Xavier Woods, you see, he left you hanging dry, just so he can have a moment in the spotlight alone. I don't know how he's going to spin it, but I'll be curious to see how it goes. That was pretty much it.
It was super short, too. Super short, and Karrion Kross has now defeated 7 former champions.
They had to make sure they say that.
You got to let everyone... I'm going to say that several times as the continuation of it, but it was fine.
Yeah. I agree. After that was the main event: Finn Balor, JD McDonough versus Awesome Truth for the World Tag Team Championship. So they had their match, and it went on. And what was it? Liv Morgan actually came out to interfere, and she actually did do more than interfere. Or distract. She actually did hang up R-Truth on the ropes so he can fall into a shotgun drop kick that Finn Balor does, which leads into the coup de grace. Of course, you have your new tag team champions. But during the match, actually, I felt was a pretty decent match. I liked it. It was a fun match. Yeah. There was some back and forth. Lots of back and forth. But the reason I cut to that is because that's pretty much was the focal point, was that Liv put this together. Liv made sure they won the titles, and she got it done for them. So that kind of put a win for her in the column for Finn Balor and JD McDonough, because they stood up tall with her on the entranceway holding up their titles as she held hers, and she was
they did the look at each other, and they did the whole like win in Rome, and then shrugged and then held it up, and it was they're all in cahoots now. She's won them over at this point.
Yep. That was the reveal of her winning them over. So now it's curious to see what happens next week. I'm still sure that we're going to have a Rhea Ripley return for SummerSlam. She got married this week, so congratulations to Rhea Ripley and Buddy Murphy. They tied the knot. Yeah, they tied the knot, which is good for them.
Nice.
But yeah, so I'm sure once her honeymoon's over, she is going to come over back to Raw and just destroy Liv Morgan or kill Dom. One of the two, if not both. I don't know what your thoughts were on the match.
I was hoping she. Well, match was good. I mean, I think like I had said before, it was obvious that R-Truth was coming to R-Truth and the Awesome Truth was going to come to an end sooner than later.
Yeah,
I think this made sense for the storytelling as well. Take the titles off of them. I'm excited for JD McDonough because he's a great wrestler. This is his first WWE title, and he got to do it with his mentor Finn, so that was cool. And they'll be able to kind of continue on, and tag titles are back in the Judgment Day. This all played into the storytelling. I was kind of hoping that we've got one more Women's Money in the Bank slot that's open, that Rhea was going to do a surprise return to qualify
cool.
for Money in the Bank.
That's
what I was hoping, but I'm like, she got married though, so I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm assuming she's still out. I was hoping for that. She's going to be the last minute person.
Do they have? I think they set it up for next week. Let me just take.
Because technically, Nia Jax has her title shot.
Yeah, as Queen of the Ring.
But did she pick? As Queen of the Ring, but she picked Bayley though, right?
I think she did. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think she did.
I think she officially picked Bayley.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, whoever wins this one probably gets the shot at the women's world title, which would be cool if that was like the surprise reveal and she was back and she wins Money in the Bank and then decides to cash in, on Liv Morgan. But I don't know. Probably won't happen.
I don't know. I mean, stranger things have happened. I mean, we can't count that out. You never know.
I don't know if they've announced the competitors in the last women's qualifier.
I don't think they have. I'm actually looking through it right now. I think they have not. Let me double check here.
And this one was technically my match of the night too. Like, the matches were okay. They were just very uneven, and there was a lot of like the Katana Carter and Alba Fire one was really more of a filler match. The Karrion Kross match was really more of a filler match for me.
Yeah,
lots of interference in all except one match tonight. So I was like, the wrestling took a backseat to all of the promos and all of the storytelling today.
It did.
So it wasn't as wrestling heavy as I would like to have given it. So this was kind of like I give it a B minus. Like I prefer my shows to have better wrestling.
Call me crazy, but I want wrestling in a wrestling show. But I mean,
I know that's really how I feel. I'm like,
I get it. Promos are a big part of it. Obviously, I understand that, and I know that we need to have builds, especially a week out from a premium live event. But at the same time, I don't see any reason as to why we couldn't have the last two spots filled for the Money in the Bank ladder matches. I don't know why they got to get pushed out a little bit more. I also don't see why we have so much interference going in. And these surprise roll-ups, I'm not a fan of. So, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Clean wins, let's have some clean wins. I know we can't protect everybody. Sometimes you got to lose and
Yeah. Well,
sometimes you got to win.
speaking of protecting everybody, SmackDown was more of the
Did
same.
none of
It
that.
did none of those things. All those things you just wish for Big D did not happen on SmackDown. SmackDown, yeah, it was interesting. We opened up with the Bloodline. Paul Heyman asking Solo where Jacob Fatu was, and then the Bloodline just kind of walked out to the arena. And then as soon as they walked out, they were immediately followed up by Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and just a brawl erupted to open up the show. There was a cool Kevin Owens swanton through a table out in the crowd and in MSG, which was really, really nice, through Tongaloa. Security ran out to break everything up, and then Nick Aldis came out as well. And then Randy, KO, and Rhodes refused to leave the ring and just beat up all the security guards who and then started to cut a promo and basically said at Money in the Bank they're putting the bloodline down for good, which they're not, obviously.
Yeah.
And then Nick Aldis returned with the NYPD, so the actual police officers
He
made them
upgraded
leave,
it.
which felt a little excessive. Guys with the hands on their guns to escort the three baby faces out. So they escorted them out of the arena, stuck them in a Tahoe, and just sent them on their way. Which felt like a little bit of an overreaction, especially considering what happened later, and we didn't get a similar reaction from Nick Aldis or anybody else. That's a little inconsistent, but it was a fast-paced, high-energy way to open the show. I don't know. What'd you think?
I think it was needed. You definitely needed that. You're at Madison Square Garden. I mean, you're there. You're wanting to kind of stake your claim there at MSG, especially since AEW was able to do a show there. Not AEW, sorry, New Japan was able to do Climax, their G1 show there, and so WWE has always been the only wrestling in the Madison Square until that happened, right? So I think they just kind of need to start off with a bang. That crowd was red hot; they were ready for some fun, ready for some action, and just seeing that aggression turn into a blood feud. That's a good, quick way to build the feud, right? To get it ready for SummerSlam, and I think it did the trick. So I'm curious to see how next week goes because it'll be the day. It'll be the day before.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I liked it.
Yeah, it was a solid way to start, and then we went right into the next Money in the Bank qualifier, which was Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill versus Candice LeRae, and started out with a double team on Jade Cargill, which this was the theme of the night for the Money in the Banks as well, where the two heels would team up against the babyface initially, and so that's how this one started. Cargill eventually started rallying and was really taking out both LeRae and Tiffany Stratton, and then Nia Jax just walked down to interfere because I guess her and Tiff, I guess Tiffy finally got her to come around to being her friend. So she just walked down, and then she got followed out by Bianca Belair. Then it went to break and came back, and they were all just kind of hanging ringside. This match was funny to me because all three of these women are really athletic. There were some sloppy moments throughout. Jade, I love you to death. I love you, Jade. But she still looks a little clunky. She still looks a little uncomfortable. At one point, towards the end, Jade fell out of the ring, and then Nia was going to go get her, and then Bianca intervened. And then the ref, for whatever reason, got between Nia and Bianca because I'm like, they're not part of the match. Why would you care if they're jawing with each other? But it was just so that Indy Hartwell could attack her from behind, which it's a triple threat, no DQ match.
Wouldn't matter.
So it wouldn't have mattered. So that was like that felt a little clunky. I was like, did they realize that there's no DQ? Like why are they trying to be like, oh, his back was the ref wasn't even aware? I was like, the ref wouldn't have cared. No. And so Jay just got shoved into the ring post and was like unconscious from that attack. And then Tiffy was able to hit the prettiest moonsault on Candice LeRae and pick up the win. When I saw it, I kind of figured Tiffany Stratton was the one who was going to end up advancing. Like they already had held out Bianca, so I figured Jade was not going to win. But they did the interference finish so that they could protect Jade's and not have her lose clean. And then you have Nia applauding Tiffany's win and holding her hand up and doing all that good stuff because they're best pals now. So this one was fine. Like the outcome was pretty much what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
But continued with the interference finishes are continuing on SmackDown early. And it just feels like a lot of copy paste with some of these Money in the Bank ones with the way that they're formatting and structuring these matches. But what did you think?
I mean, it was okay. Seeing Nia Jax there, and then Bianca Belair comes out, and the weird thing that Jade Cargill, that's what kind of threw me off, is that it looks like she was wait. I don't know if Indy was late for her spot, but there was a point where
Yeah.
Bianca Belair and Nia Jax were there getting in each other's faces, and Jade just stood there looking at them and just stood there
Yeah,
frozen.
doing
And I'm
nothing.
like, get your ass back in the ring and win your match. Like, she lingered out there for
Yeah.
a good minute before Indy came out and just threw her into the ring post. It's kind of like, I mean, I'm like, someone was late for their spot. I don't know, but it was,
There.
it was kind of off.
Yeah. Go ahead. There,
Yeah.
there was a theme of that though. That happened a few times on
Mm-hmm.
Raw and SmackDown, and I think a good example of that was in Chad Gable's match on Monday night when he went to do that moonsault. He was standing up on the turnbuckle for a while,
Yeah.
and he was waiting because they were fighting at at the top of the ramp, and so he was waiting and waiting for a spot, and he was waiting for the camera to cut back, and I was like, "What is he waiting for?" It was a long delay, and then he hit the moonsault one, and I thought
Yeah.
they were going to have Bronson Reed kick out because he spent so much time standing
Yeah.
there
No.
waiting for his cue. And then you had that with Kevin Owens a little bit doing his swanton early in the night, where
Yeah.
he was kind of waiting. Everyone was kind of waiting for each other to be able to hit their spots for the TV. So
Yeah.
the timing at times felt off, and it was the same thing with Jade. She was kind of waiting on her mark, and yeah, it felt a little clunky.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I mean, it is what it is. Tiffany Stratton getting her opportunity now. Who knows what'll happen? Who knows who the final competitor will be too? So I'll be
Yeah.
curious to see what happens
It's
there.
Tiffy time for now. Yeah, well, we'll see who ends up being, and then we got a backstage segment with just filler. Michin and Nick Aldis talking, and then the Street Profits and BFAB wanted to go after the Bloodline, and then Pretty Deadly popped up pitching Pretty Deadly the musical, which turned into Pretty Deadly versus Street Profits next week. Odd,
Because that makes sense.
the match that the match that no one asked for. So that'll be next week on SmackDown. Then we moved right into the next Money in the Bank qualifier, which was Santos Escobar versus LA Knight versus Logan Paul. And how was this not the main event? It was like
Yeah.
just stuck right in the middle of the show.
Well, because
So
of the
I
main
was
event.
surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah, the main event of
Yeah,
non wrestling. See, in my wrestling shows, I like the main event to be wrestling. So this for me was match of the night. And
Yeah.
I will say before this though, we got another backstage segment with Paul Heyman and Solo, where Paul was asking again, "Where's Jacob?" And then Paul, which by the way, Paul Heyman looked completely disheveled.
It looked
And
so
they
great. It was so
intentionally,
good.
like, he was unshaven and scruffy. His eyes were bloodshot. Like he really, like make him look as distressed as possible. So that was a nice touch. But then Solo had said, hey, I listened to you, wise man. Jacob's too dangerous. He's not here tonight, and that he wasn't going to make Paul his official wise man tonight. So that was the teaser for the end. And then we come back to the triple threat. And Logan Paul was finally making his way down, and he cut this lame promo at the top of the ramp, and he was like, he's got someone in his corner who knew about how to win at Madison Square Garden, which I don't know if he was just stuttering or turning into a sheep or what, but he called it Madison Square Garden. And then Tyrese Halliburton, who apparently plays for the Pacers. I don't really follow basketball that much.
Yeah, he plays for the Pacers.
He came out.
He was responsible for the sweep. Well, it was one of the players responsible for the sweep of the
Oh, so sweet. Well,
of the Knicks.
I was like, who cares? So Tyrese Halliburton came out, and then match started, and it was heels double teaming LA Knight, like so the continuation of the theme. And then this one was a good match though. This pretty much was my match of the night.
Yeah, same here.
It was. It was all three back and forth. Like once they got past the initial double team, and it turned into every man for themselves. It was really really good. The moment where LA Knight leapt to the top rope to suplex Santos Escobar off when Santos was up there trying to get Logan Paul. That one was great. Logan Paul hit a swanton on LA Knight to follow up. Then you had the thing that I didn't like about it, which was all the outside interference again. So you had Tyrese Halliburton getting the brass knuckles, and then Jalen Brunson from the Knicks. This was predictable because they showed him in the crowd before this, and then he comes out and is like confronts him and tries to stop him in a very very cheesy, very predictable moment where they kind of stood head to head. Right after that, Knight hit the BFT on Santos Escobar, And then Logan Paul went for the surprise roll up on LA Knight, who turned it into his own surprise roll up and won. So I was kind of okay with that. It was a real fast bang bang
Yeah.
sequence, and he got the surprise roll up. So LA Knight manages to miraculously advance. I thought Santos Escobar was going to, and they were just going to do like a blow off match with Logan Paul versus LA Knight, but LA Knight advances to Money in the Bank. And that match is really shaping up. I'm probably the most excited about the men's Money in the Bank with all the competitors that are in there now. So that should be really great. And then we had the silly face-off with Brunson and Halliburton and them all in the ring, and then Brunson brings the chair in. I think hurt his hand a little bit when he brought the chair. There's a weird sequence where he got in there with the chair.
I think he pinched his
hand.
And
then LA Knight tried to and he pinched his hand because he was shaking his hand out. I was like, oh, that's not going to be good for business. And then LA Knight's kind of like awkwardly trying to help him hold the chair. Like, I could have done without the celebrity cameo BS. I just didn't like it. But the match itself was good. What did you think?
I thought I agree. This was my match of the night. A lot of great spots. I mean, I hate Logan Paul with a passion, but I will swallow my pride and say that he's a great performer in the ring. I'll give him that. His mic skills need a little work because he comes across as whiny and disingenuous. He doesn't really speak very well. But at the end of the day, you had him, LA Knight, and Santos Escobar. I think they couldn't have paired him up with two other better people for his skill set, right?
No.
And I honestly thought that they were going to just be too into each other, that Santos Escobar was going to be able to let them just beat the crap out of each other and just come in at the end and win and sneak one out from them. That's what I thought. But, I like LA Knight in the ladder match. I think he's long overdue for a title run. But I don't think he'll win Money in the Bank. I think Logan Paul will cost him the Money in the Bank. I think Logan Paul will interfere in some way. It'll turn into a title match at SummerSlam, in which that's when LA Knight will take it from Logan Paul. I feel. I feel. I'm sorry.
No, so you're probably right. That's probably, and that's going to be frustrating for me because they always do this to Logan. They always do this to LA Knight because they did that at Elimination Chamber. Remember, where AJ Styles jumped in there and beat him up, and then Logan Paul, you had all of that shenanigans. And I'm like, oh, well, because you weren't gonna let him win, so you got to mess him over in it. So something similar will probably happen, and that's gonna frustrate me. But
I agree
because Jey Uso's gonna win.
Yeah, he is. Jey Uso has to win. But at the end of the day, though, I feel that I actually enjoyed the NBA stars there. I thought it was nice. It got a good crowd pop. I enjoy it just because. Actually, my wife and I were talking about this while we were watching. I like it because it shows folks that what other sports celebrities are into wrestling as well, and this kind of took me back to the WCW days when you had Rodman and Karl Malone come out, because at the time it was the Bulls and the Jazz.
It totally took me back to that, not in a fun way though.
For me, it was in a fun way. It was predictable, because of course Jalen Brunson being the New York Knicks player, and then of course. You had, Tyrese Halliburton. He was, part of the group that swept the Knicks there at Madison Square Garden, he got so much heat for that. It was genuine, right? Yeah. And then when they teed off, I could do without someone. You could tell they're excited. They're like kids in the ring with these wrestlers. When he got the brass knucks and he tapped them on the steps, and we're like, they're brass knucks, dude. Yeah, they're gonna ding.
He's bang bang, and then he's looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, that's how they work, man. Exactly. It did feel a little juvenile when it happened.
Yeah, I agree. And so that was that, and then LA Knight just, again, it just set up a little standoff at the end, got a good crowd pop. I like that LA Knight beat Logan Paul at his own game, because Logan Paul was trying to cheat. And Logan Paul kind of had the tights, but then LA Knight was able to reverse it using his, of course, being a veteran in the game, he reversed it and pulled the tights himself and was able to get it. Even that you see Logan Paul complaining to the ref that he was holding the tights and all that. So I think it was a nice little touch to kind of continue the feud. That's what tells me that Logan Paul is going to cost him the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think it's going to be LA Knight again, almost getting because this was last year. He almost got the briefcase last year. It's going to be LA Knight almost getting the briefcase, and then somebody's going to interfere and just take him out from it. So unfortunately, but then hopefully it'll lead to the SummerSlam match where he'll take the U.S. title off of Logan Paul, and we can finally be rid of this idiot.
finally, yeah, and finally have the U.S. title defended on a regular basis and not off TV all the time. So hopefully, here's hoping, but we'll see. Speaking of Money in the Bank, that we had the next women's qualifier, which was Naomi, Blair Davenport, and Indy Hartwell, and it started off again, both heels double teaming against Naomi. So copy paste from the last two qualifiers. Match was fine. I mean, I know how this is going to sound, but I don't really care much for any of the three participants in this one. So I'm like, this is just filler. Like, whoever wins this is going to be cannon fodder for a spot at the women's Money in the Bank. None of them are going to win it. Yeah. Naomi, of course, ended up winning. And this one came down to interference too, because Jade Cargill came out to exact revenge on Indy Hartwell.
And that was nice.
Threw her into the ring post.
Yeah.
And then fed her to Naomi, who picked up the win. So it was fine. It was pretty, by the books. More interference, and Naomi advances to get thrown off a ladder at some point. Some point at Money in the Bank.
Yeah,
it's pretty much what will happen. So poor Naomi, she's doing good work, but she's going to get sacrificed to somebody at Money in the Bank. Yeah. But that was fine. What did you think?
I thought it was a fun match. I liked that Jade Cargill got her come up. Oh, not Jade. Indy got her comeuppance for, it was the exact same interference spot. Like, Jade Cargill came out, got her, threw her into the post, same thing, and then except the only difference that she threw her back into the ring so she can feed her over to Naomi. Blair Davenport would have been nice to see her win, but they already have an NXT call up in the match, so that I knew that Blair Davenport wasn't going to get that. But yeah, it was an okay match. It was fun. Again, like you said, seeing the two. Indy Hartwell's part of a tag team. She's not going to win Money in the Bank. Naomi is the one that's going to take it. Obviously, she's the one that is overdue her run at something. So we'll see how that shapes up the rest of that. We got one more spot open in the women's Money in the Bank, so I'm curious to see who gets it and who will be added to that. But overall, it was it was a good match. It was nothing crazy, right? But lots of interference.
The last woman in the match is Becky Lynch come back. Becky Lynch reappears to
take Charlotte Flair to reclaim her throne.
Oh, there you go.
She's rehabbing her knee. She's probably ready.
Injury. Yeah, rehabbing. She could be. You never know.
It's Rhea Ripley.
And then our main event of the evening. Yeah, it would be cool if it was Rhea Ripley, though. Main event of the evening was just the last segment with the Bloodline. So that was the main event. So we had Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Paul Heyman. They all come down. So Paul starts his intro. Immediately interrupted by Solo, and then Solo starts introducing his enforcer and the newest member of the Bloodline, Jacob Fatu. So, oh no, he lied to Paul Heyman. He really was here the whole time. It was all a lie and a setup.
They did it for the
Werewolf
Rock.
Came down. They did it for the Rock, indeed. Solo said, MSG, acknowledge me, which much to the horror of Paul Heyman.
Oh, that was so great.
What's
oh,
happening?
My God, yes.
And just like over the top reactions. And then Tonga Loa acknowledged him. Jacob acknowledged him. Tama Tonga acknowledged him. And then Solo turned to Paul and told him, hey, this is your one chance to acknowledge me. And then he pulled out the lei that Roman always wears because clearly he's the tribal chief now. And what was the best moment of SmackDown for me was when Paul's like all nervously finally says that he would not acknowledge. And as soon as he said not, the crowd blew up. It got so loud you couldn't hear the rest of what he was saying.
No, you couldn't.
Like it was so loud. It was the loudest pop I've heard in a long time. So the crowd went nuts when he said he wouldn't acknowledge him. That, of course, was the wrong thing to say from Paul Heyman. And so they laid waste to poor 58-year-old
They needed to check on him.
And yeah, they tore him up. So Solo hit the Samoan spike, and then you had Jacob Fatu hit the splash, throwing the top rope splash on him, and then they pulled him out of the ring, and then Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa kind of did the triple power bomb, hoisting Heyman up on the shoulders through the announce table. Which looked terrible watching him. Paul's not really in a condition to be taking bumps like that. But he was game for it and went for it and kind of rolled over face down with like his feet sticking up in the air. It didn't look good. So hopefully, I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he's a pro. He's done stuff like this before. It's just hard to see with him at his age and his health.
Yeah.
It's like it's harking back into like Mae Young getting power bombed off the stage type of feeling.
Bubba.
But I know Bubba, man, and Mae Young took it like a champ too. But Paul took it like a champ. This was a good way to solidify for me. It was like, here's the new bloodline, out with the old, including the wise man, in with the new. The one thing I will say though, I was like, so Nick Aldis was quick to have security down there at the beginning. He immediately had the NYPD. They got all the faces out of there, the arena, and escorted them out. But when a 58-year-old manager is basically being murdered in front of the MSG crowd, there's no concern. Like Nick didn't come down and be like, hey guys, hey, hold off. No security, no LAPD. They just let a massacre happen because this stretched out over several minutes and someone could have come out. So that feels that would probably be more worthy of the GM's time and concern. But apparently not. So it wasn't a big deal. Paul Heyman getting massacred in front of the MSG crowd. But this was great. It was a great way to close out the show. And I cannot wait for when Roman Reigns returns and he'll bring Paul Heyman with him. And you'll hear at some point, it'll be my name is Paul Heyman. You'll hear that echo out, and the crowd will go nuts. And then he will introduce the tribal chief and then let Roman return. You do it all at once, and the band's back together. I'm excited for that moment. Like this whole thing made me feel that way. But
I agree.
Big D, your thoughts?
I thought it was interesting. I love this segment, and it's interesting that they do it. It just so happened that unfortunately, Roman Reigns' father in real life passed away.
Father passed away.
I know why he passed away, and they did a nice segment for it, right? So clearly, Roman's going through some stuff right now, but the fact that when he pulled out the lei, I was like, oh hell. And he wanted the acknowledge me piece was the icing on the cake for me right before he even pulled out the lei. Like, I love the way they built this up. I love the way that they've been building up the new Bloodline 2.0. I think there was somebody in the crowd when they're coming down and says, "Save us, Jimmy." And I thought that was hilarious. But because you were like, hey, like, where's Jimmy? Like, do we need to look for him?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah, he's been gone.
Yeah.
He's disappeared.
So it's good, right? Because then it's letting these guys build up. I'm liking the new bloodline. I like the aggressiveness. I like the hostility they bring. I like the roughness and the edge that they bring. I think people aren't used to hearing Solo speak. And they're not used to knowing who these folks are, right? The Guerrillas of Destiny and Jacob Fatu. They're not familiar with them. They don't know about the Samoan Werewolf. They don't know about Guerrillas of Destiny. They don't know, all of that lineage and background that they have. But at the end of the day, it makes for good television because now when he says to acknowledge him and he asked everybody to acknowledge him, it's kind of similar copy paste, if you would say, taking your words here, when Roman Reigns first built the bloodline, he required everyone to acknowledge him, and that's when he was trying to get Jay to acknowledge him, and Jay was the hesitant one, and Jay eventually acknowledged him, but that was the spin. Paul Heyman refused to acknowledge him, and I hats off to Paul Heyman. He is phenomenal, the best manager in the business. He's just so good, and his reactions, like you said, looking all distraught and just a complete hot mess. He could tell he hadn't shaved in a couple of days. His eyes are bloodshot. He hadn't dyed his hair because his roots are all gray and showing. He looks like a mess. Yeah. His tie's all crooked. Like, he's not himself, and you could tell that this is throwing him off. Like, he's not in. He's just not know what to do with himself. And when Solo asked him to acknowledge him and gave him the lei and just stood there and put his head down, I knew he wasn't going to do it. I just was curious how he was going to do it, how he was going to say no. And the way he did it was just perfect. He played into it. He knows how to speak into the crowd and to get them. And you're right. The minute he said, will not acknowledge you, like, they just lost it. And that's good. That's great because that's storytelling paying off, And I loved every minute of this. I think Paul Heyman did an amazing job. Scary, the bumps that he took. The splash, not too much because Jacob's a pro. He's athletic. He can maneuver around, and all that good stuff. But the Samoan Spike, still a devastating move to take. I mean, it's not an easy move to take either.
Yeah.
And then
He
the
still
power
has the
bombs
bump
to the
for
table.
it, and then
Yeah.
the bump to the table. Yeah.
The table is what scared me, because if you notice when it hit, it didn't go flat like it normally does. It went down, and he kind of fell on the back of his head. And so I hope he's okay. I think he is, but of course they're saying he left it in an ambulance and all that stuff. But hopefully Paul Heyman's okay. Best manager, hands down. Hall of Famer is not even appropriate for this man in my book. Paul Heyman's one of the greatest of all time, and I just it's absolute legend. And I loved every minute of it. And you're right. What's going to happen? I'm hoping at SummerSlam or sometime soon, so they can build it up before Survivor Series. Is you're just going to hear, ladies and gentlemen, my name. Oh man, everyone's going to lose their mind.
My name.
Yeah, it's going to go.
They will
Because the funny thing is, he didn't let Paul Heyman finish that little shtick. He was saying,
He didn't even let him finish.
he was like, my name is Paul, here at the historical Madison, and boom, he put his hand out, like, give me the mic, like Roman did, and Paul was like, dude, like, I'm not done, like, let me like gas you up, like, what do you mean, like, you know what I mean? It was just interesting the way he did it. And I loved it. I will note, I love Jacob Fatu's entrance. The music, the flames, cool. Oh man, that's so cool.
The presentation was good.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it. So I mean, I'm excited to see what kind of havoc they wreak here. I'm wanting to see who they feud with. So far, it looks like everyone's kind of staying away from them, with the exception of Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. But I mean, that's just the beginning. They're gonna have more, and I'm excited to see it. So I enjoyed it. I was entertained.
It was good. It was, and this was just like the Bo Dallas Uncle Howdy promo was the best thing on Raw. I felt like this segment really was the best thing on SmackDown. So overall, good show, SmackDown. I'll still give it a B, just because the wrestling took a backseat to all the storytelling again, which is necessary. But I like my wrestling shows to have wrestling. So and I like it to have good wrestling and not all dusty finishes. So
the same thing that happened last week, or the same thing that happened 4 days ago.
Same thing happened 4 days ago, and so I'm like, it's good, but it sets the table for this is the final week with the go home shows right before Money in the Bank. So this will be interesting to see, and they've set everything up nicely. We got a couple of qualifiers still left this week, so we'll get that final card for the men's and women's Money in the Bank coming up, and it'll be a fast week.
Money in the Bank coming up. I'm excited.
Money in the Bank. Looking forward to it. All right. Well, that's what we got today. Looking forward to Money in the Bank. We'll be back next week for the Money in the Bank recap as well. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the support as always. Leave us comments if you agree with us, disagree with us, or just want to talk about wrestling. We love to do that. We appreciate the support as always. And that's what we got for today. So until next week, I've been Michael D'Angelo. He's been Big Daryl Ortiz. So we'll see y'all later. Have a great week, everyone, and catch you soon.